This is Lucas Ross Sports, Lucas Ross, your commentator, and we continue our 2022 college football predictions. The Oklahoma State Cowboys are up next. I'll give you an official prediction on this team, give you my thoughts on this team, and go through the schedule, and I will go from there. But before we do that, let's look back at 2021 for this Oklahoma State team. The Oklahoma State Cowboys went 12-2 overall last year in 2021. This team really surprised me a lot last year, went to the Big 12 championship, but unfortunately lost the Big 12 championship to Baylor. It was a tough loss there for Oklahoma State, tough draw there. But this Oklahoma State team was a big surprise to a lot of people. They had a chance to make the college football playoff as well. As we take a look at the offense and defensive rankings from last year, Oklahoma State was ranked 46 on offense last year. Not a bad number there. The offense has a lot to improve this year. They have a lot coming back on that side of the ball. Defensively, 9th in the country. This was a great defensive team. They were one of the top defenses in the Big 12 last year as well. This was a great defense. They're going to be a little bit younger this year, but they still probably will have the talent to do that. But I think it's going to be a little bit different year this year for Oklahoma State. I'll get to the schedule in just a minute. 31.1 points a game on the offensive side of the ball, and defensively they gave up 18.1. So what will Oklahoma State look like? Is it another Big 12 championship along the way for them, or is it a miss out on the year there? And here's that 2022 schedule for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. And you see that opening game on September 1st against Central Michigan. Not a bad team. Let's be honest, it's not a bad team to kick off the year. But, you get Arizona State there. But I think Oklahoma State does take care of business against Central Michigan here. And, they will start out 1-0 there. And there's that game at home against Arizona State. Non-conference game here, but out of the Pac-12, Arizona State. I'm really high on Arizona State this year. They have a lot coming back on both sides of the ball. They're pretty even on offense, pretty even on defense as well. Oklahoma State, they're just beginning the season as well. And I think the defense is going to, it's going to be a time before the defense can get better for Oklahoma State. That's the question mark I think Oklahoma State has this year, for this season. And I had to go back and forth on this game. I had to go with Arizona State. I think Arizona State does win this one in an upset. Let's say if Oklahoma State was ranked in the top 15 by this point, they do lose that game because it takes a while before you can get better as a team. Let's be honest, it takes till October, probably in the middle of the year, to get better as a team. So I think, Oklahoma State does lose to Arizona State here. It sounds crazy and all, but it's my prediction. And then they take care of business against the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. That is what that UAPB stands for, Arkansas Pine Bluff. So I think Oklahoma State does take care of business. And then they get a bye week rather early in the season. They get a bye week before playing Baylor on the road. So this is a matchup, a rematch for the Big 12 championship. A tough place to play here. Baylor was a great team last year. So was Oklahoma State. These were the two top teams in the Big 12. Are they again this year? Well, I don't think so. I think Oklahoma State might be a little bit down this year because of how young their defense is. If their offense can score some points, they will win some games, but it just depends on the defense. Can they stop, all these offenses they're going up against this year? This one right here was back and forth as well. I think it's going to be a shootout. Not saying it's going to be a blowout, but I had to go with Baylor. I think home field advantage is there for them. I know Oklahoma State's looking for revenge, but I think Oklahoma State gets it done Baylor gets it done there, and I think, Oklahoma State will come up short. Not saying it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a close one, so stay tuned for that one. It should be a good matchup, though. It should maybe be a top 25 showdown if Oklahoma State was still ranked in the top 25 by this point. So then there's that game at home against Texas Tech. Texas Tech with a few options this year. They have a lot coming back as well. So, there's a possibility that this game could go either way as well. I think it can go either way, to be honest with you. I'm, looking at Texas Tech here, I'm seeing them being a good team, but, offensively they're really young on that side of the ball. So, it's really tough to tell what's going to happen. This game goes back and forth, though, but I had to go with Oklahoma State with the home field advantage. I think they have the offense to really get it done here. Defensively, they're going to get better by this point as well. So I'm expecting Oklahoma State to win this one. And then there's that game on the road at TCU. This is not going to be an easy game here. Let me be assured you guys, this is not going to be an easy game. TCU is a team that, I'm really high on, but the question is, do they have the talent to compete with this Oklahoma State team? Yes, they do, but do they have the better recruiting? No, that's not really even optional there. But TCU is a team that you don't want to sleep on. This game right here could give Oklahoma State a scare. I think it's a game that can go maybe into the fourth quarter. But I think, Oklahoma State at the end of the day, I think they're clearly the better team. And I think they do defeat TCU. Not by a blowout. I think it's going to be probably just a field goal, maybe a touchdown. You never know. But this is a game that can give Oklahoma State a scare. So just don't sleep on that game. Next game is at home against Texas. Texas might be a better team, this year as well. Texas is a team that, you don't want to sleep on in the Big 12. Texas, they should be a lot better. They should be a lot better than last year. They had a downfall season, but the offense should be really good there. The defense should be really good as well. But I think Texas does win here. I think Oklahoma State does compete. I know it's a home game there, but I think Oklahoma State does compete in this one, but it won't be enough to really get the win. I think both of these teams are probably ranked in the top 25 as well, but with this loss, I think Oklahoma State's out of that contention. Next game is on the road at Kansas State. Kansas State going to be a little bit of an interesting team this year, but maybe an underdog in the Big 12, but I don't think they're still going to have a winning season. I wasn't really high on this team either. They're going to be really young on both sides of the ball, but both of these teams are pretty young on defense. I think it's going to be a back-and-forth contest, but, with it being on the road, I had to go with an upset. I think Kansas State does get it done, but I don't really want to call it an upset. I think Oklahoma State is probably out of the top 25 by this point, but I think Kansas State does win it here, not by a blowout. I think it's going to be a shootout game. Just really stay tuned for that game. It's going to be a good one, but Oklahoma State still potentially could win it. And then there's that game on the road at Kansas. Kansas has a lot coming back this year on both sides of the ball. I'd say this is a team that can really, maybe compete this year in the Big 12. They might have a lot of close losses this year. That's what I think will happen, but Oklahoma State does have the talent, and I think they still get a win here somehow. Kansas doesn't really have the talent. They do have a great returning production coming back, but it just depends on what they can do in recruiting. Kansas has, a lot of question marks this year as well, so I'm not really expecting them to be still all that good. And then there's that game at home against Iowa State. Iowa State, a team that I'm not really high on either. Iowa State's going to be a really young team on both sides of the ball. The question is, how will they do this year? I really don't know. I really don't know. Iowa State's got a ton of defensive losses and so many losses on the offensive side of the ball. I just think that with that amount of losses, it will be a downfall year. I think Oklahoma State does win here at home against Iowa State, maybe by 2 touchdowns. I think Iowa State does compete a little bit, but I think Oklahoma State does get it done. And they get to this game on the road at Oklahoma, November the 19th. Rival game here. Oklahoma State was able to defeat the Sooners last year. This is going to be another close game, but this time it's on the road. Oklahoma's got a lot of talent, though, coming back on the defensive side of the ball. I think Oklahoma's defense is going to win them the game, and I think that's why I think Oklahoma does win. I think they get it done here. I think Oklahoma still has the talent. I know they have a new head coach and all, but I think they still have the talent to still be one of the top teams in the Big 12. So just don't really sleep on that game. It's a big game that potentially Oklahoma State can win, but it's going to be a game I think Oklahoma does come out on top. And then there's that final game against West Virginia. Pretty interesting. They played West Virginia in the last game of the year. It's a game that can go either way. Offensively, both teams might be good, but defensively, it's probably going to be a back-and-forth contest. I mean, West Virginia is going to be a team this year, you can look out for this year as well. This game right here, and also the returning production advantage, I give it to West Virginia. I'm going to go with West Virginia here to get the win. I think Oklahoma State does come up short. I know it sounds crazy that Oklahoma State does lose to West Virginia here. I think it's going to be a little bit struggling year for Oklahoma State with the amount of losses they had from last year, so that's what I'm expecting. So 6-6 is the prediction for Oklahoma State in 2022. They still can win some potential games on this schedule. Texas, Kansas State, any of these teams per se. I think 8-4 is possible, 7-5 is possible, but maybe 9-3 as well. But give me your thoughts on this team down in the comments below, and stay tuned here for more on Lucas Ross Sports.